Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Gridiron Victoria official podcast. We've had some unofficial podcasts back in the day, led by yours truly, JA, which let's just say didn't go as well as I hope this Gridiron Victoria podcast is going to go. Little bit of insight into it. Basically, what I want this show to be and what Gridiron Victoria want this show to be is a show by the players for the players. That's kind of the motto. It's going to be about getting players from clubs, coaches from clubs, players from overseas, all that, just helping understand where Gridiron Victoria is going, what it's doing, and all that sort of stuff. All the information I can give you week to week. So it'll be a fortnightly podcast in the off season, and then it'll go to weekly during the season. We'll try and recap as much games as we can. But what I need for that, obviously, people who know me, I play for the Croydon Rangers. I've been playing for about 13 years now, primarily as an offensive lineman. I can't be at every game. I can't beat anything at all the results I can't get. So I need help from everyone out there. And if anyone wants to be involved in this podcast, wants to help out, wants to come on the show, hit me up. Always happy to have anyone on. And I look forward to hearing from a bunch of people that want to get in here. What we've got tonight for the first ever show, I'm joined. If you're watching on video, you can see him already. But if you're listening on the podcast, you cannot. I'm joined by the chairman of Gridiron Victoria, I've got it right this time. Daniel Noonan, how are you, buddy? Thanks for being on.
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, and I think I called you the president the other day and got in massive trouble for it because you're the chairman of Gridiron Victoria for the second year running or third year running now? Second,
mate. Yeah.
And let's be honest, you didn't really do anything last year because of COVID, so
you had
to get another shot at it because you hadn't stuffed anything up yet.
Oh, well, got to start somewhere, mate. This year's plenty of time to stuff stuff up.
Always time. I think what I wanted to do is start by just recapping. Obviously, had the AGM a couple of weeks ago. It was a massive turnout, as it always is. Let's just quickly mention some of the outgoing committee members who are heading off onto greener pastures, as you would say.
Yeah, So basically, the way it worked out this year was that the terms for everyone were up. So it's a 2-year term for the elected directors and then a 1-year term for the nominated directors. So the terms for everyone were up. So there was a fair few who, like everyone, probably had some difficult times last year and wanted to send their focus elsewhere. So we thank them for their time at GV. You had Matt Jenkins and Casey Marin from Ballarat, who were with the board for 3 or 4 years each. So thank them especially for all their time. And then everyone else that joined were only there for basically the COVID year. So, not a lot was done, unfortunately, kind of out of our control. But Dave Murphy, Sabine Wagner, who was with us for a few years, SJ, Thomas Prince, thank all of them for their time. And then Andy Nielsen and Brett, who joined towards the end of last year, both got re-elected, I should say.
Yep.
Were silly enough to come back for another term. So both of those will be going for 2 years. And we're joined by Troy Haynes from the Predators, who's joined for his first go at this.
Good luck, Troy. I know Troy well. He's a good guy. Good luck for his son Lockie's a tremendous defensive lineman. Lineman of the year, I believe, last playing season.
Strong football family. It's true. Strong football family.
Very, very good football players.
Yeah, so but those three have joined us. So we've actually got a lot of open positions, and we've started doing a couple of interviews. Actually, already had interest for a couple of spots. So hopefully we can get a few more people to help. If you do know anyone out there, especially if they're not from the Gridiron fraternity, we'd love to have people from outside the sport to have a fresh pair of eyes on how we do things, open up our connections and our networks. And so if you do know anyone out there, tell them to hit me up. Daniel Noonan at gridironvictoria.com.au.
Get in there, guys. Quickly, get in there before all the spots are gone. They'll be flying out the door, I imagine.
Time is running out.
Time is running out. So I think something we wanted to chat about today was the inaugural Gridiron Victoria flag competition, which was taken by the Power Rangers, who were one of the Croydon Rangers teams. The last 4 teams left, I believe, were 2 Croydon Rangers and 2 Crusaders teams, which was a strong showing from both. They had some heated competition. I was there doing some commentating. The boys at Team Touchdown, Eggs and Jamie and Scott, did a great job broadcasting. I thought it was so I wasn't there playing, but I thought it was a really good day. A few of the guys said it was probably a bit longer day, but after a year of not doing anything, I think that probably was the bigger thing. But not having any sort of competition for over a year, it was great to see people out there, the blood flowing, actually caring about a football being thrown around the field, even if it was a flag comp. I think everyone really was enjoying themselves and enjoying being part of it. How'd you feel it all went?
Yeah, Jamie and X did an awesome job, and Scott on the camera crew. You on the microphone, as always, your dulcet tones were fantastic to listen to.
I was very good this year. I was a good boy this year. Not one mistake.
I didn't get a complaint, which is always positive when it comes to you on a microphone. But it's something that we're trying to push further into, the flag. That's a really good way to boost our playing numbers and expand the GV calendar out to the full year. So people always have something to do if they want to do it. We didn't force anyone to enter a team, but the guys that were there, I was there for half the day, and everyone I spoke to seemed to really enjoy it. Loved the location, loved the concept. Keen to get it on board and running again next year. Hopefully, same kind of time period, that Super Bowl weekend.
Yep.
Hopefully get a bit more club involvement and involvement of the women as well. We're trying to expand that out. We tried this year.
Disappointed with that in terms of the club involvement, like some of the clubs just not wanting to be involved? Like, was that disappointing for you?
It's hard, JA. A lot of clubs didn't have any contact with their players for 12 months or of minimal contact and very little face-to-face contact.
Yeah.
So to try and wrangle 10 guys together, we had time to do it. We had a few months, but being involved with this sport for 13 years, if you have, or I don't even know how long I have, I've lost count of the years. There's generally a lot of kind of apathy towards these concepts. They get thrown out every now and again, and a lot of the time they don't happen. They come and people get G'd up, they try and get involved, and then the concepts go away. So I think there might have been a bit of that involved too. People thought, this will never happen. This isn't going to happen. Teams won't enter. So there might have been a bit of that. So I think proof of concept is done. It can be done. The location was awesome. The gameplay was awesome. The highlights were awesome.
It was awesome. It was a great day. It really was.
Yeah. We can get 20 teams and not play 6 games each team.
Yeah.
In pretty sweltering conditions, it was actually pretty hot out there in the sun.
It was really hot in the sun. Like, so I was only commentating. I was watching these guys run around, thinking, "Oh my!" Like that, especially after a lot of people haven't done a lot for the past year, let's be honest. And if they have, it's not at high intensity. But it was great. It was also where I got married, which I worked out at about 5 o'clock on the day. That was where I got married. So
it was good. The beach was only 100 meters away, mate. So people were getting a bit hot. They could race on down.
I think most teams kind of got eliminated. You'd see them all come back from the beach, just soaking wet. But it was terrific. I thought they did. I said it's the start of something. I think we need that sort of thing in the off season. Football is a long off season, and if you've got nothing to look forward to, I know the Croydon Rangers, we had our 2 teams, and we put a couple of new guys that were interested in playing this year came in and played in, and one of them was Dylan, who was on the team that won, and he had an outstanding tournament. Like, now he's really G'd up, excited, ready to go for when football starts. I think if clubs look at it from that perspective of, it's, I'm not a big flag, like I don't love flag football that much. It's fine. It's a bit of fun. I certainly don't take it very seriously. It's not football to me, but I get that people love it. But it's something to do with like your club, and you got to look at it that way. If you can get 2 teams in there, it was great to catch up with guys from the Warriors and the Crew and that sort of stuff. Guys you haven't seen for a long time. If you play with them over the years, you get to know them and have kind of a competitive game with them, but it's not taken too seriously, which I enjoy. Once it was over, it was kind of over. You played hard and that was it. I think it was a good day, and I think it's something that GB should definitely continue to do if there's the interest in it, which I think there is. It's apparently flag football is going to become an Olympic sport. That's the new rumor. Well, it's not even really a rumor; it's kind of happening.
Yeah, it is apparently happening. And GA pre-COVID were looking for a national flag competition, which we put our hands up to host. So I think we proved that we can hold a tournament like that, and it, all of us purists, I'd say, JA love the contact of the sport. That's kind of probably why we play it. But as a league, we've got to see flag as an opportunity to attract people to the sport that wouldn't play elsewise. So, the I suppose the history of people running flag comps is thinking they're going to turn people into contact players. I don't really see that as a
No, it's
truth.
a different sport now.
Yeah, it's a different sport, and that's
cricket and Test cricket. It's just two different sports. That's just how you have to look at it now.
Clubs need to approach it like that, and GB needs to approach it like that. We could, you see touch rugby out there. There's a competition, down where I live in Geelong that has nearly 500 participants.
Yep.
There isn't a rugby team in Geelong. So there's 500 people playing touch, not a single person playing contact. So GB could expand its, membership base, and flag is a huge opportunity for that. So some clubs are on board. Yeah, some clubs are on board. Let's get the rest of them on board.
Yeah, I said I'm the president of the Croydon Rangers, and I'm not a big flag fan. I said I'm a bit of a purist, but I can understand how big it could be for the sport. I think that's something that you need to look at. Look at the bigger picture than just if you like it or not. Because you know what you do if you don't like it, just don't play. Like I just don't play in the tournament. You don't have to. But I guarantee you, there's probably 30 guys at your club that want to. So
I guarantee every one of your receivers and say you're going to get one-on-one coverage and a QB that can't get pass rush. They'll be like, sign me up.
Yeah, 100%. And the QBs love it. It's a good warm up for them. It's great. But let's lead on to kind of the state of the competition, I guess, and we'll start from the youngest age group up. And I think the big thing people are going to hear here is under 16, which is very new. The under 15 competition is now an under 16 competition. How did that come about, and what was your thought process on doing that? Is it just you don't want 19-year-olds beating up on 15-year-olds? Is that kind of where we're at now?
It played a part, JA, but we put out the member survey December, January period. I actually can't remember the exact date, but in that period, and one of the huge responses we had was there was a concern about the age group gaps. 4-year gap from a 19-year-old to a 15-year-old, and then on the lower end, under 15s, we were having 11, 12-year-olds playing in red shirts, and it was hard for people to play like that. So this is kind of a short-term pain, long-term gain thing. So there is a long-term plan here to bring in under 13s as an underneath age group of this. So we have a nice
non-contact. Is that the plan?
The current feeling is probably non-contact, and to localise the competition. So have like an east and a west competition that are two separate competitions. Try and limit the travel for the younger kids. Obviously, that burden falls on the parents.
Yeah.
Pretty much solely. So we can keep the teams within that kind of 30-minute, 45-minute travel range, non-contact, probably 7-side flag kind of style like we did, or 5-a-side flag style like we did for the GB competitions. That's kind of where we're looking at the moment. That could expand out to a contact, never say never. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. Have 3 nice little age brackets there, 13s, 16s, 19s, nice pathway. Try and get the 16s up to 9-man, and then eventually try and get the 19s up to 11-man. So we have a real clear progression system for the players coming in from a young age to senior football.
Okay, and is there any room? Obviously, it's not rumor, but there's talks about going because you've obviously gained that age group, going from 7-a-side to 9-a-side to line up with the under 19s. Is that something that GB wanting to do?
Yeah, we'll be led by the clubs a little bit there, JA. There's no point saying we're going to say play 9-a-side and only having 2 teams or 3 teams. Doesn't make for a healthy competition. Playing the same team every week, So we'll be led by the teams a little bit there. If we can push it to 9, it would be awesome. That's eventually where I'd like to see it go. But we're not going to rush the decision, mate. We'll take it, 1 year at a time.
Yeah. Do you think though, like it's really only 2 extra players on the field? If a club's struggling with the idea, are we going to have a team or not? If having the 2 extra players on the field is kind of the breaker of having a team or not, don't you think that the team's probably not sustainable anyway?
Yeah, especially when it's 2 skinny guys. As someone who coached under 15s in my local club's inaugural entry last year, we couldn't buy a lineman, really. We had small kids playing line, but I had, kids that struggled to get on the field because you're only really playing 2 skill position or 3 skill position guys.
Yeah.
So adding 2 extra positions, for people who don't know, 7 to 9, you're basically going to add 2 receivers or a running back and a receiver or whatever way you want to line up. So it's going to help you get those smaller kids on the field, which is where most of the teams had issues, in my experience in that competition. So I see your point, but I think we had 4, maybe 5 teams, I can't remember, for under 15s in 2019. If pushing it to 9 leaves us with 2, we've
It's not worth it.
rightly or wrongly, it's whether the clubs believe it's for the reasons, it's just not worth it. Yeah, so we'll be led by the clubs.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
sound like a politician.
No, that's fair enough. I said under 19s, not a lot changing. Obviously, they're going to lose a year bracket, but I think from what I've seen in the past, there's not many 15-year-old kids that play a lot of games at the under 19 level. It's just too big a jump.
Yeah, and this is something we learned from the survey and from the Teen Touchdown Schools program that we got in last year, or some of them. We're not going out to the year 10s and year 11 kids. They were saying, what are your age brackets? And the guys would explain it to them, and they said, so I'm 16 or 15, I'm playing a 19-year-old. And that kind of was a bit of a roadblock. So hopefully it leads to more of those younger kids playing in whatever age bracket they suit. But something that we looked into the numbers a little bit of the under-19 competition, because there was an initial push to drop that down to under-18s and leave under-15s as it is from some of the clubs. We looked in the over 50% of the players in that age group are 19-year-olds. So, so when you look at it, you would lose the competition almost, more than likely. And you're asking 19-year-olds to play against some pretty decent-sized men if you took that age group bracket. So under-19s, hopefully.
Down. A lot of sports are under 19s. I know a lot of people want to go to under 18s and 19. I don't think there's an issue with it, really. I think doing that in the future, the only reason you would ever do that, in my opinion, is if you were going to an under 18 and then an under 21 competition. That's the only reason you do it.
Or if we had a fully fledged reserves competition or something for these kids to go into. Some kids can play seniors at 19, some kids can't, but we want to give those kids the opportunity to keep playing. And as a 20-year-old, I think they're pretty, they're better, well equipped to make that leap. So, under 19s, hopefully we get some more players. That would be the key. It's probably the age bracket that's seen a bit of a retraction, more so than growth. So, hopefully we can attract some new players. We've got some really good stuff going out with our marketing on our Facebook and Instagram pages, which is getting some huge responses. So hopefully that leads to some more teams in the under-19 competition, and that continues to grow. And then, as I said, we can hopefully push that to 11-a-side eventually once we have some strong teams.
Yeah, I think the key is to build those younger groups. If you build the under-16s really, and that becomes a strong comp, most of the kids are going to. We're learning it at the Rangers that we kind of never looked at it that way until maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we started that under-15s team, and now we're kind of seeing the benefits of under-19s actually staying and playing senior men's football. And the great thing is that the way that the season's launched now, we're all playing together. You get to know all the kids. Like we used to play in men's, and then you wouldn't see a junior. You'd come in, roll back in for men's next year, and be like, how'd the juniors go? There was no club camaraderie in that area, and that put it together. And then I also think the men's season playing later in the year, it allows a lot of guys that play football and rugby and soccer, and we've had this conversation many a time, Noonan, that it allows those guys to come back and play and do both. And it takes that decision away from a 19-year-old kid that's like, I want to play footy with my mates, but I really do like gridiron too. It's like, well, you know what? I'm 19. I want to play sport all year round. I'm just going to flow straight into gridiron after footy's over, and there's not that issue anymore. So I think that will help. Over the next couple of years, I think that will help the junior program grow. I hope so, because we need it to grow, because the stronger the men's comp's going to be.
If we get a capture a kid at 13, 14 playing under 16s, and he's used to going from his footy season to his gridiron season from 14 to 19, when he's 20, he's going to do the same thing. He's just going to continue on. Well, the hope is he'll just continue on.
So, there's less of a chance that he picks football, because a lot of the time, kids will pick, but we used to have, he'd play gridiron for 1 year and go, gridiron was fun, but I've been playing footy with my mates for 10 years. Now we can keep him in there and create, friendships, like guys in the junior level are friends for life sort of thing, and come up and play together. That's the key. We'll go on to the women's competition. This one for me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel this is one that's kind of really struggled the last couple of years. I felt like 3 years ago it was really strong and it was on the up, and there was getting more and more teams and more clubs getting involved, and then it's just starting to really drop off. And that's just from the outside looking in. I'm sure you've probably got more numbers and stuff to see there.
Yeah, I don't think you need the numbers to see it. If you go to watching games, you can see it. So, some clubs are doing well with it, and some clubs aren't doing so well with it. It's going to be it's a huge focus of the committee this year, and we're hoping to to get some female representation on the board as well to help with the recruiting women to the sport. I think from a club that traditionally did it really, really well and then had some huge issues with it for a couple of years. Our experience was, I suppose, the AFLW and the hype of the AFLW and the local leagues or launching local women's football leagues put a huge dent in our numbers at my local club, and I know it's been similar for a lot of other clubs. So we've got to work out how we combat that. Obviously, moving the season as late as we can, so they're done with that. Much like men and under 19s can help, and I think a lot of it is also on a club level and from a player perspective is players aren't certain they're going to play because clubs iffy whether they're going to enter a team, the league is iffy whether it's going to have a competition. When you create that uncertainty, it makes it really, really hard for players to really commit to something, and they'll lose interest and they'll just peter off. So I think it's imperative for the league to say yes, this is happening, for the clubs to say yes, we're doing it, and then to go out and recruit and do the best they can, and not to just use it as an overrun program for their coaches or whatever, and actually get people dedicated and committing to doing it. So which is hard. Our clubs have minimal volunteers as a general.
I think that's part of the problem we have is the coaching. Just finding. And it's not that people don't want to coach women's football. It's that it's the same in the under 19s. It's 9-a-side. People from the outside instantly go, oh, I don't want to coach 9-a-side. Like that's something. So people like volunteers normally, in my opinion, tend to come to like the men's program. It's like, it's 11-a-side. It's what I see on the weekends. It's when I watch the NFL. It's that style. It's certainly not the same, but it's that style, and they're attracted more to that. And that's the biggest problem that I think we found is just finding coaches to be involved and stay involved. We kind of get guys to come for 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then maybe it's a husband of one of the players, and then they stop playing, and then you lose your coach and you lose your coaching staff, and you got to start again. It's a slog. I think that's what happens with new sports, and that's what the women's competition is. It's very fresh still, and I'm glad to hear that GV are going to really push for that. I know I've been talking to Brett a bit about it, and I think it's important. It's important for a lot of things, inclusion, but also, you get a lot more grants for the sport if you have women's sport involved, women's, children, and men's competitions. If you have all of them, you get bigger grants, more resources for the league to keep growing the sport and make all the comps better. So, I said, I think if you're a woman and you want this sport to get better and you want the league to get better, put your hand up. So I said, send a message to Noonan and get involved. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to commit to it and say, I know what the Rains were saying, we're having a team next year. There's no two ways about it. And the league saying we're having a comp. So everyone should be saying, okay, well, that's our goal, because every club's goal should be to fill a team in every competition. I don't know I don't know what other goal you would have. Your goal should be to win a flag in every competition, in my opinion. That should be every club's goal. And that starts by entering one. So hopefully we get it up, and hopefully we can get that, that early fire. I think the AFLW came along at a horrible time for women's gridiron. It just took all the thunder. So hopefully we can get that going. Let's move on. The men's competition. I know we're going to have a nice chat here, and this is probably going to have the most backlash about going to two divisions. I'm going to keep my opinion completely secret because it doesn't matter what I think about it. We're a club that is striving to have two teams in the comp. So for us, having two divisions makes it a lot easier because I don't really want to play against my own club. What's the mindset behind bringing the two divisions back, and how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue, Jay, is we've just seen clubs on the lower end of the ladder continually struggle to attract players and retain players. So they may be attracting them, but they're not retaining them year on year. So I think for us, as a sport, retention is a huge issue. But for newer clubs, it's a monstrous issue because, a club, say, like the Rangers or the Crusaders, who have 50 players, they can churn 10 out, 15 out a year, and they'll just get some more and they'll churn and they'll continue on. So, but your Meltons or your Peninsula or, now the Raiders, once that Division 2 comp stopped, is they're just having a monstrous churn of players. They're getting them. They're not enjoying the sport because they're not winning or they're not being competitive at least.
That's the part.
And for for the stronger clubs, they can put one or two rookies out, but they were playing with 9 experienced guys that have played before, and it's, those guys can still have fun, they can still enjoy it, and they'll still get something out of it. But when you've got 11 guys new to the sport playing against 11 guys that have been playing for 5 years, it doesn't make good watching for the league. The results don't look great for the league, and in the end, it's not good for the players. And as a league, that's what we're here for, for the good of the sport and for the good of the players. So it wasn't a decision that came quickly. I've been on both sides of this argument personally. But, I think for the league, we just got to make sure we approach it right. We have some control over the movement of teams between the divisions and don't just leave it up to the clubs, which is where we hit the monstrous issue in 2000.
That was my question. I was going to come in with that. This is what happened in the past. You had every club basically going, other than maybe, Warriors, Rangers, Crew, I know the Royals, but every other club was basically saying, well, we don't think we can win Division 1, so we want to play in Division 2 because we think we can win that. And then the other clubs are going, well, hey, if you're playing down there, we're going to play down there too. And you're going to end up with a 4-team Division 1 like it's back in the early 2000s again. Yeah. How are you going to avoid that happening again, take that control back?
Yeah, so we're just working through and it's kind of hard because we're still waiting to hear from clubs about, 1 team, 2 teams, what they're going to enter and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to work on a minimum numbers. We're kind of looking at 8 as the perfect number for Division 1 if we can get there. There's 7 clubs in my conversations with them that have committed to Division 1 already. So, we're 1 away from 8. And just try and get 8's a good number. It means, obviously we've got even numbers of teams, so we can take out a bye week that we don't need. Makes the season longer than it needs to be. Probably looking at something maybe like a north and a south, east and a west. Could just be 2 random divisions that are done by seeding. Play everyone in your division twice, everyone outside your division once. Get you a nice 10 games, bingo bango, even season, and then we can play some finals after that. And then depending on how many teams enter 2 teams, in my conversations, I won't make them public, so I'm not sure the teams want them to be public, but there's probably at least 3 clubs looking at entering a second team, plus the teams that want to enter their only team in Division 2. We're hoping to get 5 or 6 in Division 2, and that can create competition that's big enough that it doesn't become stale and you're not playing the same teams over and over and over again, which is what we want to try and avoid. But we can have a competitive Division 1 and a competitive Division 2, and hopefully have 2 really strong comps that then grow the newer clubs, and hopefully eventually Division 1 is just everyone's first club and Division 2 is everyone's second team. And that should be the end goal for the clubs, is to create, just like your footy leagues and every other league, and have a seniors and a reserves, or whatever you want to call it.
Would you do promotion relegation for the first, at the moment? So a forced and dropper?
It's really hard in our sport, Jay, to play a promotion and relegation game in, say, 2021. Because 2022, you might not even see half the team be the same. Yeah. Consistency is something that especially the newer clubs struggle with. We saw it with, say, let's go back a few years to whatever CCU, whatever their 4th names were, Pakenham.
When undefeated.
Undefeated Division 2, won the comp comfortably, and the next year came back and could barely win a game.
Yeah.
This sport suffers hugely from player churn, and people coming and going. So, playing a relegation game in 1 year may have no bearing on the next year. We could look at grading games, like your local basketball comps or something like that. That could be something we could do. But yeah, I think we'll set a minimum standard, try and work from there, and see where we go for this year. And then it may not become an issue next year. Maybe the teams that are in Division 2 that are only have the 1 team will all want to be in Division 1 next year and can be competitive. That's the dream. Whether it's true, we don't know.
No, but you got to give. As you said, you hit the nail on the head before. You can't just be forcing teams to play in Division 1 because like you can't have teams losing by 100 points. That's just that's not fun for it. And you know what? And I've been on both sides of those sorts of losses in my career. It's not fun for either team. I'm telling you, there's nothing fun about beating someone 70-0. It's boring. It is like, boring. Most of the players that are the better players play a quarter, and you're up 30-0, and you're like, well, I'm just going to sit here for 2 hours now and wait for this game to be over. It's not enjoyable for anyone. Everyone should be striving for competitiveness. Now, every now and again, do you want to have a game where you come in, you play really well, and you beat up a team, and you have a good win? Absolutely, but you don't want to have this idea where you're literally rocking up to a game going, we could not try and win this. And I'm not trying to be like, we're elitist or whatever. That's just the nature of the sport right now. The bottom, the gap from the bottom to the top. Like we've had a team at the top, the Crusaders, haven't lost a game for 3 seasons. And then, teams at the bottom that haven't won one for 3 seasons. That's too big a gap. You can't have them playing each other. And I was going to keep myself. I think Division 2 has to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to lose clubs and you're going to lose players. And as you said, you hit that on the head before. That's what GV is about. It's about getting more people to play the sport that we all love. So has to happen, unfortunately. I can't wait to the day where we imagine having, 10 teams all with two a start or seniors and a reserves team and a full junior program and a women's team. Like that's the dream, but it's got to start somewhere. You can't just force that now and force clubs to try and create that, to fabricate that out of nothing, because it's not going to work.
It hasn't worked.
No, it's something we've tried in the past, and we've gone back and forth, and it's certainly having did 2 divisions work? Maybe not, but it certainly worked better than having 1. You can't. If anyone can argue that, I'd love to hear your points because I don't know how you're gonna sell it to me. Let's move on to one of the new initiatives from Gridiron Victoria. Something that I'm really excited about, and I'm actually involved in as the athletic director. The Gridiron Victoria Junior Academy. Give us a bit of insight into how this came along. I've kind of jumped on late. I've waited for all the hard work to be done, and then I'm jumping in now to try and take some glory. How did this come about? It's a great idea, and how does it work for the people who haven't seen it?
Yeah, so the initial idea for me came, we actually did something like this with our juniors at the Bucks years and years ago. Took 3 or 4 kids, grabbed them, worked with them in the gym separately in football, and ended up placing a few kids over in high schools in the States, which was really, really good. And then the program kind of petered off as people's lives changed, and we didn't really have people to run it. And I kind of forgot about the idea for a long time. And then Brian Calloway and I were having a conversation about the under-19 state team and how we can relaunch that program after the ill-fated nationals, which we won't talk about because GA censors may be listening. So we'll kind of talk about how we went away for COVID, obviously, and the program went away. But during that trip, which I coached and Brian was one of my assistants, we had a lot of conversations about how do we make this program year-round. So it's not something that pops up every 2 years. And the kids come and they train for 5 or 6 weeks and they go play a national tournament, then they go home. How do we make it so it's year-round, every year? The kids are always getting the best coaching, they're getting nutritional advice, academic advice, anything we can do as a sport to help them. And we kind of went to brainstorming, and Brian went away and came back with a program. He got some ideas from some stuff they're doing in England and from the US, and came back with a really good framework. And then you've jumped on board, Andy, Brett, Ed from the Royals, even Craig Wilson's consulting, I would say, a little bit on it too.
Great coaching staff. Honestly, there's all the guys on this. There's some really, really good football coaches that are going to be involved in this.
I've kind of not been paying attention for the last couple of months because I've been elsewhere, but I think Josh Flores jumped on board. So there's some really, really strong coaches jumping on board
Sal from down There's some great coaches there. I think I'm really excited about a lot of these guys I haven't had a chance to work with before. That you can already see with our conversations that we've all got the same goal of we want the kids are the key to this sport. And if people don't understand that, you need to look at other sports in the past. And one of the big models that I've seen a lot of is the way baseball modeled itself. And they're at the point now where they've got, full VIS. Now, if they're in the Olympics, they've got VIS and AIS support. At the moment, they are. And then if you can turn, as we talked about flag football earlier, if you can then blend that into an academy like this, where we can help create a flag football competition and then also use those resources to help growing the game and growing it bigger. This is the start, and the kids have to be that. And to me, that's what it's all about. And there's the combine coming up. There's one down at the Peninsula on the 20th and 21st of March. And then there's one in Maribyrnong on the 26th and 27th of March. I hope I got the dates right. I didn't write them down. I should know them off by heart, but I'm pretty sure they're right. The Saturday and the Sunday of that weekend anyway, if you want to look it up. If any young kids under 19 want to get involved. That's close. But if you want to be involved in that, get to that combine and get his academy. And as far as I've been told so far, Noonan, it's actually going to be a completely free, higher level of coaching for young kids. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the idea is the program itself will be free. The coaching will be free. There may be some testing and stuff that you have to pay for because GB is outsourcing it to other people. So that may be part of it. So,
there's the athletic director fee, obviously, that every kid has to pay $1,000 for that. But that's just talk directly to me about that. You have to go to GV about that one. So the athletic director fee, I'll discuss it with all the kids. Don't worry.
Yeah. The idea is to keep it as cheap as possible as we can for the kids anyway. That's the idea. We're trying to talk to some corporate sponsors and try and see what we can do there and see if we can get some money involved in the program to help pay for some of the costs involved. But, the end goal of this is, right now GB's got one Adam Gotsis. In 10 years' time, why can't we have 20, 30, 40? We should be sending, kids every year to college. We've got the athletes over here. We've got some of the best athletes in the country, if not the world. They've got Finn, who I had the pleasure of coaching just a couple of years ago at the Junior Nationals, going over to play college. We've got kids in high school already, and most of the kids have done it off their own bat. With a little bit of help from, wherever they could grab it. But if we have a structured program, and kids commit and the coaches commit and GB commits to it, which GB will, we should be sending kids every week, every month across the US. And that's the goal for us here. And it's something that's unique to our sport. And something that we've really got to, push and work towards. And hopefully the kids are committed and we can start doing it.
Yeah, I think it's. I said I wouldn't have got involved with it if I didn't think it was a great initiative. But this is one of the things I'm really excited about for 2021, just to see where we can take this. So anyone who's interested in that, if you're a young kid under 19 that wants to get involved in this, I think they wanted to keep it to the under 19 age bracket. But from what I can understand,
take a select amount of kind of 15-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds. This program is also part of the state program, so they're kind of interlinked, but they're going to try and, if you've played before in that under 15, 16 age group, talk to the coaches involved, especially if there's one at your club, and let them know you're if you meet a couple of criteria, the coaches will take you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited about this. I can't wait to get going with it. So make sure you head over and sign up for that combine if you're interested, kids, and tell your mum, tell your dad. This is a chance they can get rid of you. They can get you over to America if you're good enough. And I tell you, I've seen some kids go to America that I sit back and think, I didn't even think that guy was that good. Honestly, I look like he was a good player, but you're like, he's that good to go over there. And there's been tons and tons of kids that I think have been good enough that just never get the opportunity because there's nothing there. And this is the chance for that. I said it's very unique to Gridiron. It's something that we can start to steal soccer players and football players and that away, because it's like, hey, you're a really good athlete. Do you want to play for Bandura reserves for the next 10 years, or do you want to go to America for 4 years to a junior college and get a free education and have an awesome time, and play football? I think it's a very attractive thing. It's certainly something I've been definitely interested back in the day if I was good enough or it was around, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. We're known right now as the kicking country. Pro Kick do an awesome job of getting kickers and punters over there. Let's expand the horizons. Let's send some real football players.
100%. Punters are people too, Daniel. All right, they're real football players. According to them.
I said that. No, I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, that's it. That's the one thing. You've done it now. That's the one thing that's the backlash. Let's move on. Just wanted to mention one of the big takeaways from the AGM was Glen Park becoming a life member. Craig came in with a a case that personally I don't think could have been denied. It was unbelievable, the amount of work he's done for the sport over the past, 25, 30 years. And my mindset is always, as someone given their all to this sport and tried to make it better. And it's really hard to argue that with Glenn. I've played against Glenn. I've played with him on teams before, been coached by him on state teams. There's one thing I'll say about him. He loves football and he's very good at it, and he knows what he's doing. So I just thought it was worth mentioning. Congratulations to Glenn, and I know you probably want to say the same, Noons.
Yeah, congratulations, Glenn. Yeah, as you said, he may not be universally loved, but he should be universally respected. His football knowledge is second to none. His passion for the game is second to none, and he's done a lot to progress the sport. In my opinion, it's definitely worthwhile, and he's definitely worthy of it. And let's hope it makes him go away so we can stop beating me in games.
Yeah, let's hope it makes them a bit complacent so they could just lose one game in the next year, like just one, preferably to the Rangers. I'm not complaining though. You know what? If the Warriors can knock them off, I'm all good. Just lose one game. No, they've been an incredible feat the last 3 years, and he's been a massive part of it. The crew were kind of, not really doing. They weren't a bad team, but then when he came back from WA and then got Craig Wilson involved, they, you can say whatever you want about anyone, anytime ever, but if you're a team and a club that haven't lost a game for 3 years, that's just that demands respect. I'm sorry, correct. And everyone is chasing that club right now. I guarantee you, and certainly we are. So, congratulations again, Glenn. Let's move on to last thing before we finish up. Just goals for the season. Obviously, the Division 2 stuff we've discussed. Anything, as the chairman, what's something that you want to see? When we sit down next year, when you've got the podcast still going again, going in for season 2, what are we going to be saying? This is what I wanted to do, and we achieved it.
Yeah, kind of first and foremost for us is just expand the profile of the sport. JA, that's something we're trying to do with this podcast, with social media marketing. We've got other initiatives we're looking into, live streaming games, all the things that came back from the member survey that people wanted, and this was part of the flag football comp, this podcast, live streaming games, premium venue for the Vic Bowl. Fingers crossed. Yep. Looks like we're going to get something there. We've got pretty advanced discussions on that. So yeah, for me, the number one goal is just raise the exposure of the sport, raise the profile of the sport. You've been involved for 13 years. I've been involved for 22. This will be this year. That's more than half my life, by a lot more than half my life.
That's too long. That's too long.
I still hear every week, they play that in Australia, or they play that here. You know what I mean?
Are you still playing rugby, JA? Like, not rugby, mate. Not rugby. Yes, I'm still playing football. Yes, I am.
So that's the number one goal for us, is to get the sport out there, get it to the masses. Obviously have a healthy competition, healthy 4 competitions, 5 if you include flag. Raise the numbers of the people playing the sport. Hopefully go a year with no forfeits and nothing like that. Increase the professionalism of the clubs. Something we're trying to do is get out to the clubs and reach out to the clubs as much as possible. Talk to them, help them if they need it. If you need help coaching, if you need help with administration, if you don't know how to write a constitution, anything like that. We're here as a GV committee. We're here to help. As a community, we're here to help. If you need help with anything, let us know. So that's one of the other goals, is try and raise the professionalism of the clubs and have stable clubs. And that will help the competition as a whole. So, they're kind of the 2, or I can't remember how many things I said there, 2 or 3 main things is, raise the profile, improve the professionalism, and then, just have a stable competition so people can set their book to it every year. They know that we've got the flag comp in Feb, we've got pre-seasons in April, seasons kicking off in September.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Lock down that big whole date and we'll just work back from there.
Yeah, and we know we're going to be playing a Vic Bowl in a stadium every year that is worthy of the championship games. So, trying to get consistency in the calendar and that kind of stuff is huge for us. So, but we can't do it alone. So, as we've said, if you know anyone that can help, love some help. Love some help.
And that's the same with, I said, you take the podcast and that. people, no one will know if you play this sport if you don't promote it. Shamelessly promote it. You know what? Half the people don't even know how good or bad you are at it. Tell them you're the quarterback. I do it all the time. I got people at work. Yeah, I play quarterback for the Crew. We haven't lost for 3 years. I'm the best player in the league. All the time. I just see the trophies behind me. I just make them. They're not real. I just make them and tell them. You know, that's from like 4 different clubs. Those trophies. So pump yourself up. Pump this sport up. You know, we all love this sport. Share the podcast. Share the posts. If you're asked to be involved in a survey, it takes 5 minutes. Just do it. Do the survey, because already from what we've got from this survey, we've found, you know, the under 16s are changing. We're going to go to 2 divisions because that's what people wanted. You know, you guys wanted that. So give back, help out. Said anyone who wants to be involved in this podcast, hit me up. If you don't know where to find me, you can email me at james@thevaultstudio.com.au. I'm James Arthur on all social medias. If you ask someone at their club, I'm sure there's someone who can't stand me that'll point you in the direction of me. So just ask. And if you want to be involved in this podcast in any way, help out. I'm all for it. Noonan, you're an absolute champion, mate. Congratulations on your second in a row chairperson. Is that the way to call it?
Correct.
Hopefully we can get a season. Like so far, your track record's not great. You've been there for 1 year and we didn't even play. So you can blame COVID all you want, mate. All right, it's just not going to fly with us 2 years in a row. So, as we're currently in a 5-day lockdown in Victoria. But no, thanks for coming on. And I think this is what I wanted for this first podcast, was to let people know who their leader is, and what the goals are and what's happening, because information can be hard to find at Gridiron Victoria, and you know, if you talk to the wrong person, you can very easily get the wrong information. So directly from the chairman's mouth, you've got it. You know, you've got it, guys. So thanks again, Daniel. Big plans for the podcast coming up in the next couple of weeks. So tune in. If you like what we're about, subscribe to this, subscribe to the YouTube. It's hosted by the Vault Studio, which is my podcast studio. Do a couple of other podcasts. Feel free to check them out, but make sure you subscribe and stuff so you get the Gridiron Victoria podcast coming directly to you. And that's it for the first one. Thanks again, Noons.
See you, mate.